I am present, thank you.
Present.
Here.
And Commissioner Migdal is here. Okay. Thank you. We're going to move to oral communications. Looks like we don't have any for this evening. We have the minutes from last week. May I have do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And I will second.
Thank you. So we're approved with the minutes. We're going to move along to the...
Oh, you got to ask for these corrections and
Oh,
additions.
right, sorry. Thank you.
And also, there was you were talking about the actual meeting or the special meeting, because we did two, and I guess we could, do we have to do them
We have
separately
to do
here?
them separately. Okay, so may I have an approval of the minutes from the second meeting on the special meeting in February 19th?
You have to ask for any additions or deletions.
Oh, any additions or deletions to the minutes? Any requests for additions or deletions or corrections?
To neither. I mean, we had them both, I remember, in February, but the special meeting, one was 7 to 8, and then the other 8 on. I didn't have any, and so I think we could, I will make a motion to approve those as well.
To approve both? Mm-hmm. Okay. Second.
Okay, so moved.
No, I have to vote.
We have to vote to approve them. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. We have
No
to-
opposed, so
No opposed.
we're good.
And abstentions.
You got to know about the special parking.
I think I found it.
It's okay. All right, so now we'll move along to the financial report and the CIP budget. And some
So I'm going to keep this pretty brief because we just spent so much time looking at these exact same budgets during the special meeting, and we're going to discuss it. This seems really loud. And we're going to discuss it on the first item on the agenda. There are no changes to the budget from the last time we reviewed it.
Do we have our staff comments for this week? For this?
Yes, I just have one brief comment. For anyone who may be interested, we currently have an open call for artists for existing artworks that may be exhibited in various sites throughout the city. This pre-qualified pool of artists and artworks may be considered for placement at various Palo Alto sites over the next 2 years. For more details, please visit www.cityofpaloalto.org/publicart. And that's it for my announcements.
Okay, thank you. So our first action item is an allocation of funds. And the staff is recommending funding allocations from the CIP and municipal budgets for the municipal golf course, University Avenue tunnels, temporary public art, and artist-led community engagement associated with the master plan.
So in the study session that took place February 19th, 2015, staff and the commission discussed a number of projects that have not been funded or have been underfunded, but the commission has expressed a desire to support these endeavors. Those 4 identified projects were the University Avenue tunnels, the artist-led engagement as part of the public art master plan, temporary public art, and the municipal golf course project. In examining the CIP budget and the municipal percent for art budget, staff and the commission discussed the funds previously earmarked for artists reaching communities and how the artist-led engagement project related to the master plan is somewhat similar in the intent to engage the community. Based on the discussions at the study session, staff recommends that funds for artists reaching communities is reallocated to support these 4 identified priority projects in the following amounts. $30,000 toward the University Avenue tunnel artworks by Ala Ebtekar and Binta Ayufemi, $10,000 to support temporary public art, $20,000, up to $20,000 for artist-led engagement associated with the public art master plan, and $10,000 toward the artwork for the municipal golf course by Joyce Sue. And that's staff's recommendation.
Sorry, can I just ask, what was the last allocation on the golf again? Thanks.
That was an additional $10,000 to go toward the golf course project.
Great, thanks.
Any questions or?
So I guess I just wanted to kind of make clear, so out of then the artist reaching communities, we would sort of zero that from 25,000. And then we would take the remaining, I thought it was, isn't it CIP is on the back or something?
Well,
No.
if you want me to break it down by budgets, I can certainly do it that way.
Well, I guess I was just trying to sort of see then in the end, when we vote for that, what we're left with in this fiscal year. And it's just not jumping out at me because, so we just allocated the 70 and, so I'm just trying to take it. So maybe if you have a way to do that easily?
So once we zero out the artist reaching communities, between what is available in the CIP funds and the municipal percent for art funds totals $73,175. So that leaves a little over $3,000 undesignated. Now keep in mind that this is just an earmarking of funds. They're not officially encumbered until we are under contract.
Okay. So I guess the reason I clarify is that I think it's important for us to recognize that we had our priorities for this fiscal year of the Public Art Master Plan, and so this is a little bit of an expansion of that with the artist engagement. And then our focus on temporary public art, specifically the University Avenue tunnels as a second priority, and then various other public art, which is, I think, connected to the comment that you made in the staff report, which is now we have an open call and we could look for opportunities to bring some temporary public art to the community. And then obviously we already have one project underway at some point with the municipal golf course renovation. So just kind of, rehashing that to say, I think this is in line with what our priorities are, and I think it leaves us kind of in April, May, June timeframe, 3 months with not a lot of wiggle room, but I think we're all pretty comfortable with that, knowing that we're starting on the public art master plan process and that the developer allocations for private development have started to yield some additional projects, at least, in planning. So it seems like we're in a pretty good position right now in Palo Alto for our public art. So, so I feel good about that, and I guess I just wanted to kind of summarize it that way, since this is Commissioner McDowell's first meeting and as the chair, and I guess I was just kind of thinking about that from reflecting over the last year. So hopefully that's helpful for anyone and everyone.
I think that is helpful, and I think it does mirror the priorities that we've discussed. I think that to get the tunnel project going is a good thing, and we needed to step up so there's a matching opportunity, and we need to make the allocation towards the master plan and really putting our best foot forward to gather input from the public. The golf course will get something much more meaningful, and yet we still have funds to do something meaningful with temporary installation somewhere in the city. So I agree.
So I motion to allocate those funds. Anyone else?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we are approved. Our second action item is the new media art for the City Hall lobby, with a staff recommendation to approve the final concept and plans for the Susan Narduli new media artwork for the City Hall lobby.
Great, thank you. So as you all know, hopefully you had a chance to look at the staff report. Susan Narduli's proposal for conversation was approved by the Public Art Commission last July, and the final contract was approved by Council in December. At that time, the Commission had seen a number of concept renderings and just a more general overview of how the interactivity might work. Now that she has come to Palo Alto, had a chance to really meet with staff and engage in a deeper conversation, pardon the pun, about the usability and seeing the space, they've gone through a lot more development in how people can utilize conversation. So it isn't just in the physical presence of the media wall, but they've developed different ways that people can interface with the artwork remotely with their cell phone or from a laptop. What was interesting is in those discussions with staff, you know, there were a lot of questions about how images and text might be edited or screened for things that are not appropriate for visibility, and at the same time not censoring people's freedom of speech. So what you saw in your report essentially was there was a lot of work that went into mapping out how those various images and comments could be tagged or linked to news feeds so that there is a way to track some of the feedback on some of the news feeds that come up and how they actually make their way to the final artwork, to the final product. And you can see there was a change in where the interface is as well, because as we went through the planning process, having individual stands or having something that moved on either side of the video wall really wasn't feasible. And this has turned out to be a great opportunity for the artist to create this. As of yet, it doesn't have a name yet, whether it's a nook or a kiosk or a stand. But essentially, it would be the space where people could interact with the artwork within the lobby. And so here you see another diagram of it. And that will be just to the left of the revenue collections window. There'll be a cutout, so there'll be a screen there where people can take the photographs, join the conversation, and then step back and see it on the wall. And so this is also just really spelling out that people will be able to interact with it various ways, that it's not just having to be in the lobby to post or interact with it. Let's see if there was something else. So the studio, they're now moving into the next phase of design, and they're going to begin purchasing equipment and starting programming on the actual server. And so staff is asking the commission to submit any comments regarding what you see as they move forward in that process, and is seeking approval for the artist to move ahead to the next phase and go ahead and purchase and start programming equipment. The target installation date, of course, is this summer. They're hoping to get it in late June.
Thank you. This should be an interesting project. I'm going to start off with the first question. Given that they've moved things from immediately on the side to kind of near the revenue window, is there any concern about privacy there, being too close to the window? And is there enough space there in terms of someone not crowding someone who's paying a bill or?
Absolutely, that's a great question. That cutout will actually come in about 18 inches. So it's almost like entering a private booth, although it's wider than I'm holding my hands now. So someone would be able to feel like they're not crowding someone else. They would have privacy in there.
Other questions about this phase and the design at this point?
I had one.
Sure.
And that was just, I think that I understood when I participated in the public dialogue,
Right.
that we would somehow have maybe the same kind of interface, like online, so the city's website, will it replicate? Because maybe I'm just not very good at reading computer diagrams, which is quite true. So these process flow things are a little beyond my usual reading of diagrams. So if I missed it, forgive me, but.
You didn't miss
it. So is there going to be a link on the website, so it's literally an exact replica of what we see here in the lobby? So if it's a real virtual replication of what we have?
So it's interesting. That's one of the issues that they're really working with right now, because if you condense the entire huge wall onto
Into
what
a
you
little.
see on the screen, it's going to be too busy and kind of garbled. So they're playing with, is it the most recent post that shows up as it goes, so you would have something feeding through, or what that looks like. So that is something that continues to be under development, but it doesn't look like it would be the exact full media wall. It would have to be some abbreviated version of what's on it.
Well, and maybe there's just a logical way to carve the piece that would make the most sense from an interactivity. I guess the kind of comment log, so there's a ability to kind of type in words, right? And that would be part of this kiosk or area, as I understood it. And it seems to me that that's a very logical one you could do from your remote location, whether it's your phone or your desktop, laptop, whatever, as opposed to like the taking the picture. I mean, I guess I don't know if other people have it or the artist will feel this way, but you know, I don't think we need to necessarily have people from all over the world putting in their picture, but maybe people think so. I don't know. I just don't know if that should be broad community or it should be local community. But yeah, I guess I was just kind of thinking more about how to limit, because there were multiple images, like you were saying,
Right.
sort of feeds from, I was trying to think of unique ways of capturing people's engagement, because news media is already sort of at their fingertips remotely.
Right.
Other, you know, like whatever. So it was just it was trying to isolate that, I guess
Right,
is all I'm
so
saying.
this last image here, you can see how they're sort of playing with having images fade in and out, and how the text and the images might complement each other. So it doesn't feel like, you know, either it's a wall of text or it's a whole bunch of images. So they're playing with really making a more sophisticated final artwork, how it would all present, but that's still very much in flux.
Okay, well, so I think you noted it. My comment would be to just sort of think through how you would uniquely engage those remote people. So imagine that a person was housebound but wanted to be participating, and is there a way, I mean, maybe they should be able to send in their picture, but I just am wondering, you know, is that?
But I think you can remotely.
Right, but that's what I was saying, is that what should you be able to do? So as the artist is thinking through, I think we're providing the comments, and so that's where I was coming from, is should they be able to do everything that you can do in person, or should there be something else that you would do? And I guess I didn't see that in the whole flow, and I was trying to think that through as far as how much yeah, because you could get, you know, like a whole group of school kids from one of our sister cities, let's say, and maybe they wanted to participate, and how would they do that? And would we want images of them? Would we want words from them? Would we want something else? And I just wasn't sure. And so I was trying to play some scenarios of what kind of input and interaction would we get remotely, and so that's all that
Right,
the
so
artist
right
is
now
probably already thinking about
it is open that way, but that's an interesting point.
something to think about.
Well, I guess it begs the question, who's responsible for kind of, once it goes live, assessing, updating, maintaining, you know, it's like at that point, does it kind of get handed over to sort of an IT department, or is the artist still involved? What does the contract kind of look like for a piece of art like this that I've never actually been sort of part of? I'm just kind of curious, you know, because the whole thing will be, like, we'll probably have to continue to be updated to remain interesting and relevant. And I know that, like, from a very small example, walking by and not being able to get Aurora to work, it's like frustrating, you know, just from like those just usability and relevantability aspects. You know?
Absolutely. So, so Narduli Studio for the first year will be constantly monitoring it. They can monitor, they can get in remotely. IT department and public art staff will also be able to get in there. So beyond 1 year, they are not under contract. IT and public art staff would do those approvals and that maintenance, and occasionally when we need to bring in Narduli Studio to handle an issue, we can do that. But under the contract, the first year, it's, you know, making sure we run through all the bugs, what are the hurdles, where are the gray areas, so that we can get their assistance in getting it really up and running smoothly.
And is there a means on this to, like, ask your local city council member a question? Is there, like, a means to, like, I have a great idea that I want the Monterey Market to open in the Fry's site. Can you do that with this?
People can submit whatever questions or topics they'd like on it, and that's part of the point of the artwork. And then if other people tag on, that's great. This isn't meant to be a direct feed to council. It is an artwork, and council has other means and methods for that. But putting something like that on Conversations could definitely bring that kind of attention to it. You get a bunch of people who jump on, you say, hey, there's this huge thread that was generated by this idea, let's look at it. So, we'll be able to see what the big threads are. So while it's not a direct line, it could generate some interesting topics.
I have a question about uploading pictures remotely. Who is going to be the arbitrator of what's questionable and not? Because a lot of selfies can be taken and try to be uploaded. You also have First Amendment questions that have to be looked at as well. So that's part, and some of the text that could be entered as well too. So those are all things that are have to be looked at, and who is going to be the final arbitrator of that to say whether that gets in or not.
Right. So these are all questions and topics that we've been talking a lot with the IT department, the city manager's office, and the artists. So as far as the text, there is screening software on there. And so the text would go through that screening software. Of course, there are ways around it. So we will have to add to what gets screened over time and amend it. And that's part of what that first year period will be good for figuring out how people are getting around it. So the text is actually fairly easy to do that editing software. The images do get more challenging. So as it is now, especially with remote devices, because this was part of the discussion, if someone's taking their picture in City Hall lobby, they are less inclined to post, to photograph something wildly inappropriate to go up on the wall. But there's a lot of temptation with a cell phone where something like that could get through. So the photos will have to be batch edited before they are allowed online. So if you take a picture in the lobby, it will appear for a brief period of time. So you do have that instant, there's my photo, there it is, but then it goes into an editing folder before it becomes a part of the artwork. Yes.
That's the one that's done in the lobby, but what if it's uploaded remotely? Does that get?
They all go in for batch editing, especially the ones that come in remotely.
Okay, so they won't, the remote ones won't even show up on the screen?
No.
Okay.
They'll go in for editing. But we wanted to make sure that the people who are interacting with the artwork in the lobby, really see that it becomes a part of the artwork. So it's slightly different.
What about foreign language text?
Pardon me?
Foreign language text? It's something, enter something in a foreign language?
That's interesting. That's something we discussed, and I'm not sure where the artist has come out on that, but I will definitely bring that up.
A couple of thoughts. One is it's not hard to do this, I don't think, either based on the IP address or based on the cell phone, to post a location where it came from, which is sort of a nice thing to do. To have the user say, I'm in this location, if you're traveling and you're a sister city in Japan or China, wherever you are. The second is a concept around hashtagging. So if you started to mention a thread and it's a not that difficult a convention to build to, where you were to tag something about, I don't know, some issue like I love Palo Alto kind of thing. And then the third thing was around being able to monitor something that snuck through. So I don't know if you're not always going to be there, you're not in the lobby, and there are staff that are in the lobby, and if there was some kind of refresh button where it went back to an evergreen set of things that we know are inoffensive, like if something sneaks through and who knows, we missed it, and there's going to be someone sitting there presumably, and they'll see it and say, oh, refresh, and there has to be, it could be just a little administrator panel that would be accessible via a browser, and you'd have to log in to authenticate and just give who was ever at the front desk the ability to hit refresh or reset. And that reset would go to something that would clear whatever's in the cache and put up something that's inoffensive. Just a suggestion.
Sure.
And then I guess further on that point of maintenance, so then would we imagine that these, once that kind of comes to public art staff after the year contract, then that would come under our same maintenance budget on an annual basis where you might say, oh, we need a new video monitor or some new other thing, and it would just become part of the upkeep of an artwork, for example?
Well, some of the monitors are a different thing. The monitors were pre-existing the artwork, so those presumably would come out of a different budget when they need to be replaced. But maintenance to the actual artwork, so the server, the equipment that are just part of conversation would be part of our maintenance budget. Or if we have to have Narduli Studio come in to do additional work because, you know, we want to add some feature to it or something like that, that would come out of our budget.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, even though it's a digital media, it's the same concept of maintenance.
I think most of my questions were asked. Does this technology exist already? I'm just thinking, like in our office building, we have this screen that's supposed to just show slides, very simple, and it's like always broken. It's very frustrating. So sort of to your point too, the people, like we've all had to learn how to reset it at the box. So not just for inoffensive things, but so yeah, does it exist already? And then, I don't know. It just makes me slightly nervous seeing what we've gone through.
Well, the video wall, it will serve two purposes. So when it is on artwork mode, right, it will show conversation. Otherwise, it can be used for streaming city-generated content at any time. So think of it as sort of a toggle switch going between the servers. So because the monitors, I mean, they're going in now, they, you know, that city content will be up and running for some time. So those glitches presumably will be worked out. Before the artwork goes live on those monitors. But Narduli Studio has done all this before. They're extraordinarily competent. So I have no question that they will be able to, the artwork will function as it needs to.
That's great, yeah.
You know, I think right now we're talking about the nuts and bolts about this project, but overall, I think it's going to be a great for the public when they come into City Hall here to be able to do stuff like that, to come in for city council meetings, even this meeting if people do show up. But I think it's a great idea that it really gets the community involved. And, I think that's what we want with City Hall, is to get people involved and to make it a destination for school children, for people to come in and do something on this wall. So I think it's a great idea. So with that, I move for approval of the the final concept and plans for Susan Narduli's media artwork for the City Hall lobby.
Do we have a second?
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are approved.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Go
so
get shot up.
our next items of business are non-action items. The informational report on the status of this art plan for the Simon Property Group at the Stanford Shopping Mall, 181 El Camino.
I think they went to get her. I saw her outside.
Jim, could I take a minute and just say hello to all of you?
Absolutely.
I'm your official observer this year, liaison, whichever one wishes to call it, and I'll be here as often as I can. And it's always fun to see something that's enjoyable. So appreciate it. It'll be fun to see what the shopping center has coming up next. And aren't you fascinated by that conversation piece? Yes,
Be interesting,
we all
yeah,
are,
yeah.
yeah.
It's going to be very
And just
interesting.
as some of you said, we're a little uneasy about something that, you know, may pop up from time to time.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
still waiting on a couple people. You know, we're going to ask for about a 5-minute break, if that's all right. We have a few people we're still waiting on because this meeting has moved forward so efficiently, which is wonderful, but we need about 5 minutes if you don't
Okay.
mind just taking a break for 5 minutes.
All right, we'll
Thank you.
take a break. Uh, 2315 and, or 2515 and 2535 El Camino. So whenever you're ready.
Okay, so we have Ken Hayes here to give the presentation. And this is for initial review, so this is a non-action item. And the applicant team is seeking input from the commission as we move forward with the artist selection process. So Ken, if you wouldn't mind walking them through the project, that would be great.
Good evening, members of the commission. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm happy to present or introduce you to the project on behalf of my client, Galen Ma, who's here in the audience. Let me just get acquainted. So the site is about an acre site on El Camino Real, between Sherman, which is here, and Grant. This is actually the site of the Olive Garden restaurant currently. The Olive Garden there and mostly parking lot around it. But it's a high-profile site, a lot of visibility. These are some existing photos, the Olive Garden. Our program is to demolish the Olive Garden. We're going to build a 0.5, it'll be a mixed-use project, so it'll have residential and commercial uses. The commercial uses will be both retail and office. Office primarily on the second floor of the 3-story building, and then 13 two-bedroom residential townhouses that are they're 2-story, which would be kind of interesting, I think, in terms of product mix. And then we really wanted to create an outdoor community space, which kind of lacks in that area. The goals, I've already talked, mixed-use building, response to the site. We like to incorporate lots of daylighting, sustainable building strategies, lasting materials, hide sort of utilitarian functions, trash enclosures, and parking and related utilities behind the building, reinforce El Camino Real, and try to create this courtyard or amenity space where our main building entry would be, where people that live there would come down and they'd be in that space before they would maybe walk into the Cal Ave district or something. So this is a site plan. This is what we showed to the at the ARB preliminary hearing, and kind of gives you a lay of the land, what we're trying to do. El Camino here, we have pedestrian entries. These arrows here define the pedestrian entries. The blue dots are really the glass that kind of wraps the building on the ground floor for maximum retail commercial exposure. The yellow elements are vertical circulation, goes from the garage. It has a subterranean garage, goes from that subterranean garage up into the building. There's parking behind the building, and the ramp down to that garage is located here. We're pushing the building away from this residentially, that's actually an RM40 district, so it's a higher density, the highest, in fact, in Palo Alto that they allow, but we're trying to back the building, pull it away from that as much as possible. So we have about a 63-foot separation there. And this plaza I'm talking about really is occurring here. And we think that's a great spot because Palo Lane, which connects all the way up to California Avenue, in fact, it may even be behind the building there as well, but I think it starts at California Avenue and comes this way, and it would be a terminus, all right? And there's the city parking lot that is on the eastern side of Pearl Avenue, and then our building would have the opportunity to develop this plaza space right there. So we thought that was great. And the fact that our building kind of begins to shelter it from the noise on El Camino Real, the traffic, that sort of thing. Yet it's in a location where it would still receive great afternoon sun, morning shade, afternoon sun. And the site plan, a little more specific. I don't think I need to spend more time on that. This is the second floor. Offices at this end of the building, which is kind of anchoring that corner. This office space overlooks the plaza. There's a balcony here that overlooks the plaza courtyard. And then these are the first floors of the 13 condominium units. They're all 2-bedroom. And then the second floor of the condominium units located like this. So there's no, and which is the 3rd floor of the building. And this part of the building here is just 2 stories where the office is. So it kind of steps up to the middle of the block. Just some sustainable building strategies. We have a whole solar array on the roof that we're using not only for photovoltaic power generation, but also to help screen the mechanical equipment on the roof. So it's kind of acting as a dual purpose. Underground parking, the whole site. This is kind of this opportunity area, if you will, that we see for public art. Not that we have to limit it there. In fact, some of the artists we're looking at for the other project on Lytton talked about having some sort of artwork that permeates the site, and so wherever you are on the site, you see the artwork. When we did this, we hadn't heard that presentation yet, but this is what we thought originally. It could be something located here. It's above the parking garage below. We have raised planters that are still being designed in this area. We're thinking that this part of the building would be a good opportunity for cafe, something that would make use of that public space outside. So that's why we were kind of and plus the main building entries there. There's all these reasons why we're focused on that. And then, excuse me, if you look at, this is what you'd see from Pearl Avenue, all right, or Lane. If you're walking down Pearl Lane, you have that, and this is the area that's indicated there would be sort of the third dimension of the art location. And then this is from our parking lot, not quite as obvious there. The building uses modern forms and lasting materials. There's cement plaster. There's a real interesting rain screen product that is a panel product that you see here that would be these gray elements. We want to create a rhythm along El Camino Real to define each of the units, to use the units to create the rhythm along El Camino Real, and then define them kind of like that. So that's one unit, this is the next unit, and so on down the street. The ground floor is all glass. Excuse me, this is the southern view from El Camino on the left, and the product inside each of these cutouts for the units. This is about an 8-foot recess from here, so there's deep shadows, lots of depth, and I think that will help the building sort of exude a certain quality. It's not going to read flat. And then the material that infills that is a residential kind of material, like a wood siding or something. We haven't completely focused on that yet, but we think it should say residential. And then this is the view from Sherman, the commercial part up above. The main building entrance is here, the balcony above the entrance there, and this is that area, the courtyard area for the artwork. If you come off of Grant, now there's an entrance off of Grant, and then in the north off of Sherman. This is the parking lot entrance. The garage ramp would go down here, and to get to the rest of the parking, you would drive around that way. So there's units on the front and on the back. And this is a view from the corner that shows the office above and then the retail on the ground floor with raised planters, and then this kind of wraps in here to the courtyard. There's actually a planter here now. These are older renderings. And just kind of to give you a little bit of the context, it's a shame that we didn't show Parallel Lane right here, but that's where the lane, comes in right about here. The hotel is on the corner there. But the project sort of wraps that the whole site in a view from above there. El Camino obviously on the right. That's it.
So for the project, the team has hired city staff to do the project management for the artwork. We've had some initial discussions, of course, about the plaza, as Ken mentioned. And there's a stairwell off the plaza, which are sort of natural places where we might incorporate artwork. But we also wanted to get some comments and suggestions from the commission and see what other thoughts and ideas you may have as we move forward with artist selection.
What's the, thank you, it looks like an exciting project, and in my personal opinion, be a welcome change from the current situation.
Thank you.
What's the square footage that you have to play with in the plaza?
Good question. It's probably close to 1,700 square feet. That would include the planters and so on.
So the length that runs along Sherman, it's at 1,700 square feet, but how long is that distance? Does that looks like around?
This is 45 feet here, so this is about
50 or so?
55 feet, and this is at least 25 feet in depth.
Okay. And what's the budget that we have for the?
10 million.
10 million?
I'm sorry, it's
10 million.
not for the art.
Yeah.
I heard it, Ken, I heard it.
It's the new 100% for art.
That's right, that's right. I didn't touch on the schedule, but it's in your packet.
Okay.
Okay, so the schedule's in there as well.
So there would be, it's a $100,000 budget with consultant fees and whatnot. You end up with about $80,000 for the artwork.
And is there any kind of motif that you're playing with for some of the other projects we've seen that you've presented? Sometimes there's been something you're trying to achieve with the overall look of the building, and how should we think about that in this case? Is it just separate, or how do you think about that?
So there's not a lot of context right there just because of some of the older development. So it's really, it's El Camino. We're trying to think of it as placemaking, I think, really. I mean, it's the idea of the courtyard came, or this open space came very early on. We have build 2 lines that are a requirement. So in this area, I believe it's 75% of the building needs to be on the setback along El Camino Real. So that started to dictate how the site would start to be shaped and developed. We clearly wanted to have the residential off of the ground floor in this area of El Camino. I think you could think of the materials as being very thoughtful, unique, and lasting. There is some cement plaster on the building, but we've really have taken a hard look at rain screen products, which is sort of, it's not new technology, but it's the latest for healthy buildings. And so it's a cladding material that we'll have on the outside. It's a composite, comes in, and there's all kinds of rain screen products, but you basically, you build your finish system off of the weather barrier of the building, so the building actually is able to breathe, because air gets behind and travels behind the siding. So we like the message that sends. We also like the quality of the material. And I like the idea of the residential part, reading residential. Now, we don't have pitched roofs, but residential can also mean materiality as well. And so the materials that we want to propose for the residential part in those openings will be not unlike what someone would be accustomed to. It's a modern building.
So thanks for presenting your project. I'm going to jump in with a couple of thoughts. One is that I think, if it were up to me, I would also try to consider something. I know you're trying to bring the community into the plaza, but using the planters and then all the area there, I do worry that it's kind of starts to become sort of small, and I don't think there's a huge budget, but even thinking about it, bringing it forward, maybe giving it a little more visibility from El Camino, there could be an opportunity there depending on what it is. And the what, to me, I tend to want to not think in a static kind of even 3-dimensional manner, because I think we have a lot of that. And so something interactive or kinetic. So, if it were to be in the plaza, something tactile, people can interact with and touch. It doesn't have to be digital, but, it could be something, or, imagine kinetic movement. Because I do think this is a pretty solid mass. And while it's nicely designed and has lots of deep punctures and so on, as you were describing, it's a big building, and a little tiny piece of art is going to get kind of swallowed up, I think. And at that plaza, I kind of read that edge as 2 stories, is that right, as opposed to 3? Yeah, so at least the scale is down a little bit, so I can imagine if we're dealing with something a little bit smaller, then you might do something appropriate. I often try to think of things not necessarily in the like I said, just sort of an expected maybe kind of sculpture element, but maybe something sound. When I say interactive, it could be something that you can touch, that tactile, things in the ground, I mean, that sort of thing. I mean, I know there's ADA issues and so on, but those are, I do think the biggest challenge is going to be just the kind of the scale or appropriateness, because I do worry that there's just, it's not a huge budget and it's a big project, and so it will get swallowed up pretty quickly. So in the past, we've talked about light, or integrated sustainability elements, things that we have a website that we've actually uploaded a bunch of really neat images. I'm not sure if Elise or others have pointed that, what was it, Pinterest that we put all our stuff on?
On Pinterest, yep.
Yeah, so we have what is it, Palo Alto? I know I've gone there and I have it bookmarked.
We can follow it then, right?
Yeah, right. Because we are pretty cutting edge here. No, but I think we've pointed to some really neat, even just some lighting that could, sort of like some neat things from Core 10 steel that has LED lights or something. I mean, just not that that's necessarily, but it's just ideas. Right. So anyway, I just would love to have you get that link to just see some of the things that other people have suggested and inspiration that we've had to help you brainstorm, because I think it is a design challenge, and I'm sure your team will all be up for it. So, thanks.
Thank you.
A couple thoughts. I'm not as opposed to something three-dimensional, but given the space constraints, I'm wondering if it's possible to do something, I don't know if it's something that's like a mobile that is suspended. And I don't know how complicated or expensive that might be, but something that would float down from the top and that would be kinetic, kind of a Calder-like thing, could be kind of interesting. If we go back and look at I don't know, if you don't want something to mar the front of the building, but you don't have a lot of space to walk around. That it may be 50 feet wide, but it looks like it's maybe 10 feet on the piece there. One other thought is, I don't know if you've thought about...
I'm sorry. This is also part of the plaza here.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So you do have a bit more room.
I'm not, yeah, so this is a little misleading. This is all, in my mind, all the way from here to here is all open space except for a stair that comes down right here.
Okay.
This part here is actually undercover. The second floor extends out, so you could have a variety of seating opportunities, both in the shade or in the sun. I think this is where, I'm not sure actually why we have that dotted line drawn there. I apologize. There's
There
an
was,
image
yeah,
here.
one of those views, I think, that was kind of...
didn't quite do it.
There was one more, I thought. There it
Oh,
is.
there you
Yeah.
go. There you go.
All right.
That's
So
fine.
yeah. So there's only a stair that comes down here. So this is completely open, save for the planters, and the planters are not defined yet. I mean, we're working with the landscape architect right now on that.
And it looks like there's this sort of a set of columns,
There's two columns.
and there's a setback, so you actually have even more
So there's
space.
another, 15 feet from this face back to the rear wall, and we envision that rear wall being able to just kind of slide open. So there's quite a bit of space there. That diagram is a little misleading.
How do you think about it in terms of potentially having some artistic seating arrangements for, if you want this to be a plaza, to have it be social? The two concepts I would just throw out, and then I'll, is do something that's a bit more utilitarian. I think if you're thinking about, there's lots of interesting things we've done with bike racks. So I don't know if there's someplace else in the parking area that you're thinking about that, but there's beautiful designs for really fun and playful bike racks, some of which are on Pinterest. And the other concept is just being some fun seating. I've seen some really interesting things in poured concrete, that fun shapes and things like that.
I was going to just jump in one last one, and I promise to be quiet. The seating idea, I think the landscape architects too, if rather than just sort of right away thinking of poured concrete and planters, the seating, like the Blunk stones that are at the artist is Joseph Blunk, I think he's think he might still be around, but anyway, it's like a small arrangement of stones that people can sit on and touch and move around, and like little kids would climb on, and you know, those sorts of things. I think that those are neat, and those could serve the same edge purpose maybe that the planter is, but.
So I agree. I think after hearing everyone, I think that I like the seating idea too, since it looks sort of empty from here, and that would make people come in and all of these ideas. One seating I had seen recently is, I think it's at a MTA stop in New York, and I don't know what the material is, but they took seats, you know, like real seats, and sort of cast them and then made them out of some sort of, you know, permanent material, and they look like a wooden, you know, seat you'd have in your house, and doing something that, you know, matches the aesthetic of the building. And it was very eclectic. It makes sense for a train station and is really, really neat, but could be a whole other way. And then the bike racks too. I always advocate for that as a biker, and having interesting bike racks, because it could draw people in after the farmer's market or something, and there's a lot of people biking over there. You know, maybe a place, there's so little room to sit and eat after the farmer's market. It gets so crowded over there that maybe sort of way to get people in there and hang out. And,
You've all
if you
been
have a cafe too.
to Barone's, you know, in Menlo Park?
Yeah.
You know, so there's a combination of sort of fixed seat walls that you can sit on, but then there's plenty of furniture that you can move around. The successful outdoor spaces need to have flexibility in the furniture, but that doesn't mean that there couldn't be some interesting, you know, pieces that are built in that could be fun.
Yeah. Based on, you know, interesting Eames chairs or whatever, you know, matches your aesthetic.
And the one thing I do agree with is the scale of the piece, whatever piece goes in there. And my only suggestion is that the artists come on board as soon as possible to work with you, and let the artists really envision that space and what they think would work in there. I think we can all make suggestions, but I think it's up to the artist to do that. So get the artist on board as soon as possible, have them sit down and work with you and what your vision and what the artist's vision is.
Great, thank you.
Just one other concept. As I look more and more at the building, it's very, it's a strong structure, and it's a lot of vertical lines, and it's very rectilinear. And it might be fun to do something to counterbalance that. If you were to do a sculpture, to do something that was not abstract, but actually that was representational of something playful and fun, like think Oldenburg. You know, I don't know, it's seating that's maybe also fruit or vegetable or hamburger, to just give a counterweight to the rectilinear nature of the building.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks so much for coming. And I would just not say anything that hasn't been said, so I'll keep it brief. When I look at the building and just kind of get the sense of the aesthetics, I do think that the notion of something that's utilitarian being addressed as the artistic element, the planters, the benches, something repetitive but like meaningful, is probably preferable to sculpture in courtyard. But I'm sure that an artist could envision that and advise that way. But I would just celebrate something utilitarian in a unique way.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing? Just what Commissioner Migdal had made me think is just going back to that farmer's market, and this is a destination when you have something fun that would like draw families over, you know, that kids really love it, and it, you know, those examples you gave, and so people would want to go, and kind of like a park and fun place to go hang out and then have your picnic or whatever. Especially in, well, I don't know what the retail would be if it's open on the weekends, or so it gives it kind of a little bit of liveliness at times when the office workers aren't actually there.
All right, I think that's it
Great.
for the comments.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you tonight.
So we're now going to move to the informational report on the status of the art plan for the Stanford Shopping Center.
Good evening, and thank you for your flexibility on the schedule tonight. Appreciate it. Let me make sure I know how to forward this. can I do? Great. Okay. So we're here this evening. I'm Chandra Cerrito. It's a pleasure to meet with all of you again. The last time we were here, we had decided on an art plan, and we had introduced you to a couple of artists that we had selected. And tonight we're here to give you an update. Some things have evolved from the design process, and so our art plan has slightly changed. So we wanted to make sure that you were in the loop before we go too far. So this is the original plan where we had 3 major sites identified. And I'll just kind of quickly go through them to remind you. So this is the main entry off of El Camino, which we always thought of as a very significant part of this project, and also tied to the new construction, which will be happening. So this is a site that we absolutely wanted to hold on to and intend to continue. This is site number 2, which was an existing internal kind of indoor-outdoor courtyard. It's external, but it has a roof that's made of glass. And in this location, we had the idea of doing a suspended piece. And this is the site that has been decided to be eliminated. And I'm going to turn this over to Ron Zatunian from Simon to kind of flesh that out for you. But just to give you some kind of background. So site number 3 was this location right near Bloomingdale's, and this is from a distance. And so this was actually a location that had been identified prior to this whole art process. So it was identified throughout the planning process as a necessary site. So this is one of the sites that will remain. So what we wanted to do tonight is to kind of give you a little understanding of why things have shifted and how we intend to approach the 2 remaining sites in hopefully a way that has equal amount of impact to what we had originally planned. So this represents our current art plan. So still having site number 1 off of El Camino, site number 2, which I'm calling 2A, right outside of Bloomingdale's along Loop Road. And 2B is just to signify that we'd like actually the art at 2A to continue on that pathway leading to Caltrains or leading from Caltrain, which was definitely an idea we had been entertaining, and it had been something that had come up in a planning session. But now we feel more strongly that that's an important element. And that's one of the reasons why there has been this shift. We want to make sure that we have enough resources to do justice in both of these sites. So with that brief introduction, I think I will turn it over to Ron. And he can talk about Brad Howe, who is the artist that we had selected, helped us in preparing this presentation just to give you a sense of scale and what might be possible without having an actual proposal. So none of what you see is going to be the proposal, but just to help you understand our general directions.
Thank you, Chandra. Good evening, Ron Zatunian, Director of Design at Simon Property Group. Thanks for having us here tonight. I want to go to the beginning, I guess, of this presentation, just to talk about Stamford Shopping Center as this wonderful community that is rich with amenities that span from architecture, storefronts, tenants, and their sort of individuality of their brand to really fantastic modern interventions, which is part of our redevelopment in the form of fountains. We have existing planters, we have existing art. We also have, in terms of urban design and spaces, we have pavilions. We have, I think, 4 pavilions. Pavilion 1 is in the state of being removed if you go out to Stamford Shopping Center. But we have these great spaces and amenities and destinations that are choreographed throughout the interior of the project. And going back about 2 months ago when we first started looking at potential locations or sites for art, we felt that in partnership with the university, of course, we felt that, of course, Site 1 is an essential location. It's directly opposite El Camino, and we were encouraged, I guess, if you will, to think about this Site 3 as a very significant location as well for art that happens to be on axes with a path, a pedestrian path that, as Chandra stated, leads from the train station to the property. But we identified an interior site as well, thinking that perhaps we needed some kind of magnet to draw people into the heart, if you will, of the space. Pavilion 3 is basically center court. But as the project developed, and it's been developing very quickly, okay, decisions are being made, aesthetic decisions, developmental decisions are being made rapidly. And we came to a point where the architecture of some of these interior amenities started to develop and take on their own character. Pavilion 3, unlike some of the other roofed-over pavilions, is a robust space. It's the largest of the 4 pavilions. There's a lot of wonderful natural light coming into the space. And it has also been identified by our management and operations colleagues at Simon as being the most flexible, spaces in the complex in terms of different events, seasonal events. And those events have different complexions, They could be, holiday related, they can be, food related, music event related, or there could be an author or whatnot. So we felt that how would you say, brand the space with a very specific, piece of art at a cost that was, significant. To do it really well, we had to spend a good 40% of our art budget on that one particular space. We felt that, well, let's think about how we can best incorporate public art into Stanford Shopping Center that have the greatest impact. So we went back to the suggestion, actually, from a member of Palo Alto Planning some time ago to consider, in Site 3, consider the opportunity. I'm going to jump ahead to Site 3 because that's really been that is the sort of, Site 2, sorry, the impetus for this change. It was suggested to us that originally when we located a singular piece here, that it didn't have enough impact, right, along this pedestrian corridor visually. And if we could expand upon that in the form of, and I quote, breadcrumbs, meaning that perhaps there could be pieces that were fragments of this work of art that jumped across the street and continued down to draw people closer, to the center, that would be worthwhile. But we were like, yeah, that's great, but I wish we had another, we could double the budget. But we came to realize that the real impact for public art at Stanford Shopping Center was on the exterior. Given the presence and the richness of the amenities that I described earlier, we diverted, if you will, the funding from Site 2, the pavilion, to create another Site 3, and it's called 2B. So we really do have 3 sites, but essentially this area here is a much larger context of art, and I think it has more significance than a mobile or suspended piece. And those pieces they're not what you see here, but they're in a sort of vein or family of a collection of pieces that have a kind of kinetic quality to them, but they are, there's some stasis there, they're still, but they are pieces, breadcrumbs, I guess, that take you from the public realm on the perimeter to the edge of the shopping center. And you can see, it's very difficult to see it, but that's not actually it. That's why you can't see it. Here it is. You can see that we've located piece or component number 1 here. This is the restaurants further down. And we lead you to the point of transition where you could lose sight of the significance of art. We have another piece here, and then ultimately we have 3 pieces here. So you're drawn into the new development. And we feel that this has a stronger impact. It's much more of a long-lasting benefit to the community as opposed to a structure that's hanging from an already fantastic pavilion roof. That's the justification. I think it's for moving a focus to another site. This is site one. We're very excited about this particular piece. It becomes a welcoming beacon, if you will, to a kind of rejuvenated portico way, the main avenue in the project. And what you're looking at here is the main approach, the main sort of front door, formal front door. Currently, it has a series of steel archways and a pavilion roof that are in the process of being removed. And what you see in this rendering is, in fact, the experience that you'll enjoy in a month or so, where the shopping center in its public spaces opens up to you. So we felt that, again, fortifying the quality and the presence of this particular piece of art was necessary. And originally, when we had 3 locations, truly 3 locations, this piece was about 10 feet high, 10 or 12 feet high, and it is now in the area of about 15, 16, 17 feet in height. So it does begin to bridge the scale, mitigate the scale of the 2-story new development across to the existing 1-story development. And I think that's pretty much, the reasoning behind this change that we're presenting to you tonight.
Thank you. Do we have some comments and questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I seem to recall we were kind of excited about the path.
Yeah.
So from, if my recollection is correct, because I think it's just a natural way to draw more pedestrians, and hopefully we'll have more mass transit riders and coming into the mall. And so, I mean, nice job on this new Bloomingdale's. I think the elevation is beautiful from that side. So to draw people that way, it's just a natural. And I don't know, maybe I'm just dreaming, but I seem to recall that I might have even thought about, I remember Nia specifically thinking about the breadcrumb.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of that. I don't know if you're familiar, and I'm going to butcher it because my French isn't so good, but there's an artist named Daniel Buren, so if I said it with an accent, it would sound different. But it's in the Palais Royal in Paris, and they're just a series of colored black and white posts, if you will, and you can kind of jump on them or stand on them or take a picture on them, and they're very much fill a courtyard. And I mean, I can imagine, tall, skinny things, and this guy's great Brad Howe color. There's just so much richness there that I think you can do something very impactful, and I don't think that it's a deterrent to have taken something away from that very busy. There's the Easter Bunny. I just happened to be over there today, and there's the holiday, and there's the pumpkins, and there's just a lot going on there. So I think the art could have been lost. I mean, so I think, so this is exciting, and I think we probably aren't going to have any trouble getting behind whatever you come forward with. So,
Thank you,
good job.
Kathleen.
I agree. I think this is a much better use of the funds to take things and put them on the perimeter as markers of the entrance and drawing people in. And I think you would get lost. I know that area that you're talking about pretty well, and it's very congested.
Yep.
And from a commercial standpoint, it's probably in your interest to have flow be better there. And I think this is an inspiring thing to get people exposed to art at a place before they go and spend a bunch of money at the mall. So, not that there's anything wrong with that.
No. Agreed.
Well, I like the change because I think that one plaza area you're talking about, as everybody's saying, it can get very congested. And I like the idea of what you call breadcrumbs. It's a way to draw people in. And in San Jose, there's a piece kind of like that at the Paseo de San Antonio, which goes from San Jose State down to Plaza Park. And it's Ernest Galarza, Dr. Ernest Galarza, and it commemorates him. there's a big table down by the Fairmont, and along the Paseo, there's big swooshes along the ground, which is in Spanish and in English, the sayings of Dr. Galarza, who was the first Hispanic professor in the United States. So it's that type of thing that you're talking about, breadcrumbs, that kind of, you read these things and it leads you down to the table of where he worked. So I think that's a great way to get the public art really integrated into the shopping center.
Oh, that's fantastic. And the fact that this bullnose corner of the new development is a signed deal for a restaurant association with the parent tenant. So it's very consistent with what you had just described. Thank you.
I would just add one more thing, and it's, I think that it actually makes for a nice meeting point. At the Embarcadero Mall in San Francisco, there's a big Du Buffet that's right opposite the not-so-great fountain, which eventually, but it's a common, meet me in front of the Du Buffet, this
Right.
piece.
Selfies and, yeah. So, great.
It's the placemaking, exactly, and I think that the public art is really playing a role in that way, so I agree, we can all meet there.
Great.
Any other comments, questions? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, do we have any announcements?
We have a couple of calendar items and an announcement. So for the calendar items, I wanted to make sure you all know that we have an artist outreach meeting as part of the master plan. So we have invited all artists, pass it along to any artists you may know who are interested. It is an October 30th meeting from 4 to 6 p.m. at Coverly. March, thank you. Where did I get October? Thank you, Commissioner Kavanaugh.
We mentioned the pumpkin, so maybe you went to Halloween. I don't know.
Started thinking about my next pumpkin. You've got it. That is from 4 to 6 p.m. We tentatively have our date for the joint meeting with City Council for May 11th, so details for that will be forthcoming. And then we have also scheduled, as part of the master planning, what we're tentatively calling Public Art Boot Camp for not only the Public Art Commission, but inviting Architectural Review Board, Planning and Transportation, all the various boards and commissions that we are looking forward to collaborating with as we implement the Public Art Master Plan. And that would be conducted on Saturday, May 16th. It would probably be something about 10 to 2. And the site, I think we're looking at Rinconada Library. But I wanted to just have you pencil that in. It would be terrific if we could have all the public art commissioners there. It'll be a wonderful overview of current trends in public art, get really inspired, really learn some of the nuts and bolts about best practices in public art, what's going on in the field, and also have some opportunities to collaborate and, look at some mapping and really, have some fun and really start thinking about the kinds of directions we want to go and what we want this master plan to look like and incorporate. So I really encourage you all to please hold it on your calendars if you can, and I'll get the details to you as soon as I can.
And Elise, who will run that meeting?
Yeah, is that part of
Barbara Goldstein, Gail Goldman, and myself will be running the meeting. And then for an announcement, and the Public Art Master Plan will be on the agenda next month. We'll have lots of updates, but we are starting to put together the list of the Public Art Advisory Committee, of which Vice Chair Miyagi is going to be a key part of. But we know that we probably would like to bring along another commissioner to be part of that process. So if you are interested in being engaged with the advisory committee, please just email me and let me know.
What is the advisory committee?
Pardon me?
What is the advisory committee?
The advisory committee will be comprised of approximately 15 representatives from Palo Alto, really diverse, really sort of big thinking about the Public Art Master Plan. So they will assemble about 3 times and give input on the directions and the findings that have come forth from the master plan, comment on the drafts before they come to the commission. And that's it for my announcements and calendar.
Anyone else? Our next meeting is on Thursday, April 16th at 7 p.m. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Thank you very much.